beyond, obviously, the remit of the ICJ's advisory opinion. But Israel today says more than ever that it is acting in Gaza in self-defense following the attacks by Hamas in Israel on October the 7th.
So Israel has been using force in Gaza since 1967, continuously. And on October the 6th, 2 years ago, Israel was already exercising military authority over Gaza, and, as I say, illegally. In that situation, when a state is using force illegally, if there is violent resistance to that illegal use of force, the state's use of force does not somehow then become lawful as a means of defense to that defense. There is no defense against defense.
If Israel, hypothetically, decided we want to be in full compliance with international law, what would it have to do?
In general, there needs to be an end to racial discrimination and the domination by one racial group over another from the river to the sea. It needs to be the return of all of the Palestinian people who were forcibly displaced and have been displaced from that land for a century. That's also a legal requirement.
Displaced since when? Are you talking 1948 or 1967?
No, since even before 1948, but certainly from the Nakba and 1947, 1948 and onwards. A legal right of return in international law that is vested in all of those people and their descendants. The remaining non-Jewish Palestinian people who were not forcibly displaced in 1948, but who are treated in various ways as second-class citizens within Israel, around 17% of the citizenry of Israel, that's unlawful. And that illegal discriminatory treatment that constitutes apartheid needs to end. There needs to be equality. And then when it comes to the extension of Israeli rule into the remaining 22% of mandatory Palestine, the West Bank and including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, there needs to be a complete withdrawal immediately, the removal of all settlements and settlers, and the provision of compensation to the Palestinian people for all of the harm that they have suffered since 1948.
This part gets lost in discussions about the advisory opinion. It does mention compensation.
Insofar as it addresses the 67 onwards, yes, the requirement of compensation as well as withdrawal.
So land that has been taken, again, according to international law, as it is laid out in this advisory opinion, land that has been taken from Palestinians by Israel since 1967 needs to be returned to them.
Yes.
And where that is not materially possible, they need to be...
No, there is no excuse for not returning the control of the land. So Israel doesn't have the option to maybe withdraw from some of the land and retain some of the land and then just provide compensation. That's not legally permissible. What I mean by compensation is compensation for all of the other loss suffered by the Palestinian people as a result of the unlawful occupation.
There are 15 judges at the International Court of Justice that rule
There were
on
then,
these,
yes.
that rule on these opinions. 15 judges had to decide, say yay or nay, essentially. They could provide a dissenting voice. But my point is, this decision was not close. The judges were overwhelmingly in favor of saying that Israel's presence in Palestinian territory is illegal and must end. This was not close.
It was not. And likewise, there was an overwhelming support in the UN General Assembly affirming the finding of the ICJ in all key respects.
So the UN General Assembly, which represents all the countries in the world, one country, one vote, passed a resolution at the UNGA demanding that Israel respect this advisory opinion. And that means demanding that within a year, Israel leave occupied Palestinian territory, cease all settlements, and remove all settlers. That was voted in September of 2024. So we're about... The
clock is ticking.
Yeah, the clock is ticking. Nobody thinks this is about to happen. And there are no signs that this is about to happen.
States were also told in the advisory opinion and in the General Assembly resolution that the illegality involved in the occupation has important consequences for them because of the fundamental nature of the rules of international law